Leon is a formidable duelist using seemingly unformidable cards. Based on a host of fairy tales, Leon's lineup includes fan favorites such as Cinderella, Little Red Riding Hood, and Mother Trudy. And tying it all together is the Golden Castle of Stromberg, a card that in the anime is considered one of the rarest and most powerful, but in real life is mostly just known for being one of the longest card texts on a spell or trap. Before going through the customs, let's take a step back and assess how the archetype currently functions. The castle is a field spell akin to Toon World in the sense that the in-archetype monsters benefit in a variety of ways from having the castle out. Most notably, in exchange for your normal summon, you can special summon a Stromberg monster from your deck. That's a pretty powerful effect in order to toolbox your entire deck, but that power is limited or expanded given the selection of monsters. Stromberg's other effect is also pretty strong, basically shutting off your opponent from attacking because if they do, the attacking monster is destroyed and they take damage equal to half its attack. These powerful effects are not without cost though, and it's probably one of the heftiest costs out there, whereby you have to banish the top 10 cards of your deck face down each standby phase. As for the monster lineup, we have two good cards, the boss Hextrude and the searcher Glyph the Phantom Bird. The latter you can discard to search the castle and on summon pops a spell or trap your opponent controls. The boss can pop any card on the field as long as you have the castle out, and when it does, it can make 2 attacks on monsters. The few other monsters released leave a lot more to be desired with Prinzessin, Pumpkin Carriage, Iron Hans, and Iron Knight. There is some utility here, notably Carriage providing your castle targeting and destruction protection, and Cinderella being able to fetch the carriage. Hans can fetch the knight, and if you have the castle out, allows you to go into some extra deck plays. The spell trap lineup is especially lacking with just 2 other cards alongside the castle. You have the Glass Slippers, which unless you're dead set on an accurate Leon deck, probably aren't worth the trouble. But the other card does have some promise, and that's Iron Cage, which if Stromberg is in a field zone, will let you send one opponent's monster to the grave without targeting or destroying. You can also retrieve any monster this card has sent by sending this card to your grave during your standby phase. The premise of this deck speaks for itself, adding more cards that support the fairy tale theme. The deck needs more monsters to take advantage of the castle, including starters and extenders. Fortunately, there are a number that have yet to be adapted from the anime, and similarly, the deck lacks spells and traps, so in addition to adapting the remaining anime ones, a few more to truly leverage the castle will help the deck function more efficiently. The monster lineup starts with Little Red Riding Hood, who when sent from field to grave by battle or card effect, special summons 1 level 4 or lower Stromberg monster except herself from your deck. But if Stromberg is in a field zone, you can get a second such monster with a different name from the first. Basically, you mess with this little girl, you're gonna have a lot of trouble. Next is the Hand Trap 7 Kid Goats, which activates when your opponent special summons 1 monster. You can send this card and 1 other Stromberg monster from your hand or field to the grave to negate the summon and destroy it. Then, if Stromberg is in the field zone, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the destroyed monster's original attack. Next is Forest Hunter, who on summon can destroy a beast or beast warrior monster on the field, but if Stromberg is in the field zone, you can target any 1 monster and destroy that instead. Next is Forest Wolf, who equips any monster it destroys in battle to itself, giving it an additional 600 attack. You can also leverage those equips by sending 1 to the grave to negate the effects of Stromberg you control during your next standby phase to get around that atrocious cost of banishing 10 cards face down. But not only that, it turns it around by making your opponent banish 5 cards off the top of their deck face down, reenacting how Siegfried forced Yugi to pay the maintenance cost of the castle. And finally, we have Thorn Princess, who if summoned by 100-Year Awakening can target and take control of 1 monster your opponent controls. Also has an effect where if you control Stromberg in a field zone, when your opponent summons a monster, you can negate that monster's effects until the end of the turn. The spells start off with Curse of Thorns, which allows you to target 1 monster in your opponent's grave and prevent its effects from being activated. Also, if Stromberg is in your field zone, your opponent cannot activate the effects of monsters in the grave with the same type as the targeted monster. But if that monster is removed from the grave, this card is destroyed. Next is 100-Year Awakening, which is the card that summons Thorn Princess from your hand, deck, or grave by sending 1 Curse of Thorns you control to the grave. Also has a graveyard effect by banishing itself from the grave to protect your Stromberg from being destroyed. Next is Spinning Wheel Spindle, which has the simple effect of targeting 1 monster you control and destroying it, but bringing it back during your next standby phase. Alternatively, if Stromberg is in a field zone, you can target an opponent's monster instead, so a nifty quick play spot removal. This card works as an extender for you by comboing it with Little Red Riding Hood or Disruption against your opponent, and the last bit of the effect also provides a second way alongside the wolf to turn off the maintenance cost of the castle, because if in that standby phase you do summon the monster it destroyed, it negates the castle during that phase. Now we get to the full custom cards, starting with Picnic Basket, an equip that grants the monster 500 attack. You can send this equipped card to the grave to add one card that mentions Stromberg from your deck to your hand, but if it was equipped to Little Red Riding Hood, you can add a second such card with a different name from the first. And finally, we have Fairy Tale Flip, which allows you to swap out a Stromberg monster in your hand to summon one from your deck with a different name. Say you're not feeling Cinderella today? No problem, put it back on the shelf and grab another story of your choice. This card does come with a restriction though, that you can't activate monster effects that turn, except the effects of Stromberg monsters. The one trap is also a full-on custom, and that is Fairy Tale Ending. You get as many effects as monsters you control that mention Stromberg. With at least one, you can activate Stromberg from your deck or grave. At least two, cards that mention Stromberg are unaffected by your opponent's card effects that turn. At least three, you draw two cards. At least four, monsters that mention the castle gain 1000 attack until the end of the turn. And five, send all cards your opponent controls to the grave to go for an OTK and that Fairy Tale Ending. Alright, time to go through some combos with the Fairy Tale deck, and this one actually does have some pretty robust combos, a lot of which revolve around Little Red Riding Hood, by far the MVP of the deck. So we'll start off with Fairy Tale Flip by revealing Glyph the Phantom Bird, returning it to our deck, and special summoning a different Fairy Tale monster, one that mentions Stromberg. We'll bring out Little Red Riding Hood. Activate Picnic Basket, equipping it to her. We can send it as an equip to the grave to add one card that mentions the castle from deck to hand, except Picnic Basket, but if it was sent when it was equipped to Little Red Riding Hood, we get two such cards. So we will grab back Glyph and Fairy Tale Ending. We're going to activate Glyph, pitching it from our hand to grab the Golden Castle of Stromberg. And since we haven't normal summoned this turn, we can give up our normal summon and special summon a Golden Castle of Stromberg monster from our deck. We'll grab Hextrude. Hextrude can destroy any card on the field. We'll pick Little Red Riding Hood. When she's sent from the field to the grave, we can special summon one level 4 lower monster that mentions the castle from deck, but if we have Stromberg in the field zone, we can special summon two such monsters. So let's bring out our two stun cards, 7 Kid Goats and Thorn Princess. Set that Fairy Tale Ending pass to our opponent. So now on our opponent's turn, we can negate a monster effect when they summon a monster with Thorn Princess. We can also negate the summon of a special summon monster with 7 Kid Goats. Let's say we get back to our turn, we haven't lost any field presence. We'll draw a card, pay the maintenance cost of Golden Castle. And now we'll use Golden Castle's effect to special summon a monster. Again, this time we'll go with Little Red Riding Hood. Use Hextrude to pop her again, and she'll grab us two more special summons. Let's get Forest Wolf and Pumpkin Carriage. So for added protection for our castle. Turn everybody to attack mode, flip over a Fairy Tale Ending. Since we control 5 Stromberg monsters, we can send all cards our opponent controls to the grave. All of these guys are going to gain 1000 attack each. They're going to be unaffected by our opponent's card effects for the rest of the turn. Draw 2 cards, and we can also activate an additional Golden Castle from our deck or grave. So that is a OTK potential with the deck, and you see a lot of ability to special summon and grab monsters from the deck at will. And so like I said, Little Red Riding Hood is the MVP of the deck, and you want to have ways to at will send it from field to grave to trigger its effects. And the deck has 4 in-archetype ways to do so. Forest Hunter on summon if Stromberg is in the field zone can target any monster on the field and destroy it. Hextrude can destroy any card on the field. Iron Cage can send a monster you control to the grave, and you don't even have to have Stromberg on the field to do that, but if you do, you could also send an opponent's monster. And the Spinning Wheel Spindle can also destroy a monster you control, and if you have Stromberg on the field, kind of like with Iron Cage, you can destroy an opponent's monster instead. And the especially cool thing about Iron Cage and Spinning Wheel Spindle is that they allow you to bring back the monster you destroyed. So in the case of Iron Cage, during your next standby phase, you would send it to the grave to bring back Little Red Riding Hood, and then trigger it off again with Hextrude or Forest Hunter. Or if you use Spinning Wheel Spindle, it would be destroyed, and then during your next standby phase, you would special summon it, and then on top of that, you would be able to negate that maintenance cost of Golden Castle, and then be able to continue going into your combos without having to give up 10 cards off the top of your deck. And those are the combos with the Golden Castle deck. So that does it for the Fairy Tale Custom support. Hope you enjoyed, and be sure to like and subscribe for next week as we go from fairy tales to operas.